The KeysDAN Show. It's the KeysDAN Show. I need a new theme for the KeysDAN Show. You might hear news. You might learn stuff. You never know what you're going to get on the KeysDAN Show. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, and this is my podcast, The KeysDAN Show. It's a podcast because I know that I need to learn stuff, and if you like the sound of my voice, let's learn stuff together. And if you want to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Sunday, September 1st, 2019. Number 1, more than 20 shot, 5 killed in West Texas shooting. Police said at least 5 people were killed in a shooting Saturday afternoon between Midland and Odessa, Texas. There were reportedly at least 21 gunshot victims overall, including 3 injured police officers. The alleged gunman was reportedly killed by law enforcement after being chased to a parking lot at an entertainment complex. The shooting reportedly began after the alleged shooter was pulled over for failing to signal a left turn. The gunman reportedly then hijacked a mail carrier truck and fired at random as he drove around the area. It was the second mass shooting in Texas this month, following an earlier incident in El Paso on August 3rd. This is according to The Guardian and the Associated Press. Number 2, Hurricane Dorian strengthens to a Category 5 storm as it heads towards the Bahamas. Hurricane Dorian strengthened to a Category 5 storm Sunday with winds of 160 miles per hour that could reach as high as 190 miles per hour before it is expected to hit the Bahamas. Residents of the Bahamas have boarded up their homes and moved from low-lying areas to bigger islands. The most recent path projection shows the hurricane shifting slightly west, placing more of Florida in the cone of uncertainty. The storm is expected to slow down after Sunday before veering northwest and then eventually northeast, sparking preparations in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Florida's east coast will remain within striking distance as the storm travels, though Dorian is expected to downgrade slightly to a Category 4 storm by then. This is according to the Orlando Sentinel and the Associated Press. Number 3, China, U.S. hit each other with retaliatory tariffs. Trade teams from the U.S. and China will reportedly meet in September in the hopes of inching closer toward a deal between Beijing and Washington. But tariff increases on $112 billion in certain Chinese goods still went into effect Sunday at midnight as planned. The tariffs will make it 15% more expensive for U.S. companies to import many Chinese goods, though some tariffs have been delayed until after the holiday shopping rush. The newest round of tariffs are consumer-focused and will reportedly cost the average American household $1,000 per year. Chinese retaliatory tariffs ranging from 5% to 10% also went into effect Sunday. Beijing plans to start collecting additional tariffs on December 15th. This is according to NBC News and Reuters. Number 4, protesters take to the streets throughout UK after Johnson suspends Parliament. Tens of thousands of demonstrators thronged the streets throughout the United Kingdom Saturday, including right outside the gates of Downing Street, to protest Prime Minister Boris Johnson's decision to suspend Parliament. People in the crowds reportedly carried banners promising to, quote, defend democracy, end quote, waved European Union flags, and chanted, quote, stop the coup, end quote. Critics have accused Johnson of suspending Parliament as a method to prevent MPs from trying to find a way to block a no-deal Brexit before the October 31st deadline. Johnson has maintained he wants to reach an agreement with the EU as well. but is prepared to leave the union without one. The decision to shut down Parliament until mid-October has drawn a barrage of criticism from ministers and civilians alike. This is according to The Guardian. Number 5, Taliban launches second consecutive attack in northern Afghanistan as peace settlement grows closer. Taliban fighters launched their second attack in as many days in northern Afghanistan on Sunday. The Taliban targeted, give my pronunciation, Pui-e-Kumri, the capital of Baghlan province, about 145 miles north of Kabul. There were no immediate reports of casualty figures, but a spokesman for the Taliban said fighters entered the city, overran 4 government checkpoints, and killed several soldiers and police officers. Heavy fighting reportedly continues. Sunday's attack follows a similar one Saturday in Kunduz, one of the country's largest cities, which set off a day of gun battles before the Taliban was mostly driven out of the city by Afghan military reinforcements. The attacks come as the United States and the Taliban reportedly grow closer to a peace settlement aimed at ending more than 18 years of conflict in the country. This is according to the New York Times and Al Jazeera. Number 6, Hong Kong protesters block roads to airport. Hong Kong's anti-government, pro-democracy protesters once again targeted the city's airport Sunday. This time, instead of primarily occupying the transportation hub, they reportedly called for overwhelming metro stations in the hopes of hindering train and bus services to the airport, which could subsequently lead to flight cancellations. Transport links to and from the airport were reportedly cut off for hours. Sunday's protests follow a violent end to Saturday's demonstrations, which resulted in at least 51 arrests. Graphic footage showed police hitting some individuals with their batons in a train station. The officers said they were responding to citizen reports of disruption and vandalization. Sunday caps the 13th consecutive weekend of protest in Hong Kong. This is according to the South China Morning Post and CNN. Number 7, Ginsburg says she'll be ready for Supreme Court term following cancer treatment. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said Saturday she is on her way to being, quote, very well, end quote, following radiation treatment for pancreatic cancer that wrapped up over a week ago. The 86-year-old Ginsburg, speaking at the Library of Congress National Book Festival, also said she would be prepared for the start of the Supreme Court's term in October. Ginsburg has had multiple bouts with cancer over the last 2 decades, including surgery for lung cancer last year. But doctors have said that following her most recent radiation therapy, there is no sign of the disease anywhere in Ginsburg's body. This is according to NPR and NBC News. Number 8, Netanyahu revives call to annex West Bank settlements. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Sunday he intends to annex all Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank, doubling down on an election promise he made 5 months ago, although he did not provide a time frame. Quote, with God's help, we will extend Jewish sovereignty to all the settlements as part of the biblical land of Israel, as part of the state of Israel, end quote. Netanyahu said in a speech in a West Bank settlement. Settlements are one of the most contested issues in the Israeli-Palestine conflict. A spokesman for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said Netanyahu's announcement, quote, will not lead anyone to peace, security, or stability, end quote. This is according to Reuters and Bloomberg. Number 9, Saudi-UAE coalition reportedly kills at least 60 in Yemen Detention Center. A Saudi-UAE-led military coalition battling the Houthi rebel movement reportedly struck a detention center in an air raid over Yemen Sunday, killing at least 60 people. A spokesman for the Houthis' Ministry of Health said at least 50 more people were wounded in the bombing, which took place north of the city of Damar in western Yemen. The coalition said in a statement carried on Saudi state television that the air raids were launched on Houthi military targets and destroyed a site storing drones and missiles. Another Houthi spokesman said that those held in the bombed detention facility were awaiting their release as part of a prisoner swap with Yemen's internationally recognized government, adding that the fate of many of the prisoners remains unknown. This is according to Al Jazeera. Number 10, Osaka defeats Golf in advance at U.S. Open. Naomi Osaka, the number one ranked player in women's tennis, still has a chance to defend her 2018 U.S. Open title after defeating Coco Gauff 6-3 and 6-0 at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York Saturday evening. Osaka will move on to face 13th seeded Belinda Bencic in the quarterfinals Monday. The matchup between the 21-year-old Osaka and the 15-year-old Gauff was notable because it featured two phenoms who figure to take up much of the spotlight in tennis over the next several years. Gauff became the youngest woman since 1996 to win two matches at the U.S. Open, but the two-time major winner Osaka proved to be too tough. Both players received praise afterward for their sportsmanship, as Osaka consoled a tearful Gauff on the court following the match. This is according to ESPN and the Associated Press. This was 10 Things You Need to Know Today on Sunday, September 1st, 2019. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag #WhatMakesYouFamous. This has been the KeysDAN Show. I'm KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.